This is Joel, and in this series we are talking a little bit about network defense. Again, this is going to be a pretty simple video, and probably most of you guys already know about this. In this one, we'll be talking about how to set the firewall rules, right? We'll look at an example of Windows, we'll look at an example of Linux, right? And also we'll look at how you can do the same thing on cloud, right? So it's kind of like a variant of all the three, right? So yeah, so what do I have right now? I have a Windows 10, right? Right in front of me here, and let's start with the IP address, right? Sorry, IP config, and there you go. So this is 192.168.0.188. Okay, that's fine. Now let me also go to my other machine, which is I have a Kali Linux here, right? But you can obviously use any Linux, because the IP tables or the firewalls are basically supported in that, right? So let's look at the IP address here as well. So both of these are on the same network. So this is 117. Okay, cool. So let's try to ping my Windows machine from here, right? 192.168, I believe, and 188. There you go. So I'm trying to ping, but you can see the ping is not going through, right? And you probably would have seen this before as well. The reason is because we've got the firewall, right, causing issues. So let's go and look at the firewall. So let's go to Windows. Yeah, there you go. Windows Defender Firewall and Advanced Security, right? So when you come down to the firewall page or the Windows Defender Firewall, right, this is what you get. And if you see on the left hand side, you have different rules. So you have inbound rules, you have outbound rules, and so on, right? There are already a bunch of rules pre-configured for you, right, when you install the operating system, because these are some of the services which are running on your operating system, and certain ports are open for them and all of that, right? But as you can see, the ping utility, or basically the ICMP, is not allowed right now, and that's why we are not able to ping our Windows machine. So you see, there is no response at all. It's all stale. So the first example, let's go and enable ping. How do we do that? So let's go to inbound roles. Let's add a new rule, right? So here you can basically select if you want basically a program, you can do that. You can enable a port. There are predefined set of if you put a drop down, right, you have a predefined set of you can say firewall rules, right, which you can directly select and enable. In my case, I want to show you how to do this till the end, so I'm going to use a custom rule, right? Click next, and so is it asking, do you want this rule to be added for all the programs? I'm going to say yes for all the programs. It's asking me what type of a protocol do you want to allow, right? In my case, it's going to be ICMP v4. There is ICMP v6 as well. In my case, I'm going to stick to v4. Okay, and you can customize again, because in ICMP you have different type of packet types, right? So you have echo request, you have echo reply, and so on, right? You can explicitly go to that granular level as well. In my case, I'm going to allow all the ICMP types, but yeah, you have that provision over there, right? Click next. It's asking next, do you want to give this access basically for a particular IP address or all the IP address, right? I'm going to say any IP address. Click next. Do you want to allow this connection or block the connection? I basically want the ping to work, so I'm going to say allow. Okay, so I'm basically going to allow this everywhere, so I'm going to say next. You can give a name. I'm going to say allow ICMP v4 inbound, right, and finish. Okay, so the rule has gone in. Now let's see. There you go, right? The ping has started working, right? Pretty simple, right? I'm going to turn the ping on, go back here. So that's how simple it is. So that's why the GUI method. Now let me also show you other way. You can also do the same thing using PowerShell, right? Hope this is visible. Let me just open it in administrator mode. So you guys probably know what PowerShell is already. I'm going to open this in admin mode. Yeah, there you go. So that's PowerShell. Give me a second. All right, so I think that's a little better visible now. So let's get to the C. I mean, I don't have to be there. I just like to clean it up. Let's clear the screen. Yeah. So how do you write the same firewall rule but using a PowerShell, right? So you have a command line utility called new net firewall rule, right? So if you are a IT engineer and if you have probably worked in like support, IT support rules before, you probably would have used this, right? So it's basically a new net firewall rule, right? And you can put in a display name for your rule, right? Just like how we added the allow ICMP text before, right? Similarly, you can put in a display name. I mean, I'm gonna put something like, what do I want to allow here? So let's say I want to allow RDP, right? Inbound, right? RDP remote desktop protocol. So let's say if someone wants to RDP into my machine, I would want to allow that. So you give a name, and then what are some of the most important things? The direction is important. So I'm going to say direction. What direction do I want this? I want to allow this in the inbound direction. So let's allow that in the inbound direction. What action do you want? Do you want to accept this or deny, right? So I'm going to allow that. And then you can also define the protocol, right? Because that's important. Which protocol do you want to allow? So I'm going to say protocol TCP. I think that's the protocol for RDP, right? I think it works both on TCP and UDP if I'm not wrong. But yeah, it's just a rule, so it's fine. And which port probably do you want to run this, right? You can even go to the extent that you can also define even the remote port as well, right? From where do you want the connections to come in? Where do you want the connections to terminate? So I'm going to use local port for now. And if I'm not wrong, again, the RDP port I think is something around 3389, right? I might be wrong here, do double check. But yeah, I just want to show you how to write rules, right? So this is a very simple rule where we are allowing RDP connections into my machine on the port 3389. Let's click enter, right? So it's going to take some few seconds, and there you go, the rule has been created, right? So once the rule has been created, we can even go back to our GUI, right? And let's just refresh this. How do you refresh here? I think you have a refresh option. Yeah, there you go. So we refreshed it, and you can see the rule which we just now added has, come down here. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. So that's how simple it is to create your firewall rules in your Windows machine. Okay. All right. So that's done with Windows. Let's quickly look at how to do the same thing on Linux. So I've just deleted the rules which we just now created. Let me close this. Let's go back to our command prompt, and here let's start a continuous ping to what 192.168.0.117. okay, so there you go. We have a ping going on to my Linux, or basically the Kali machine, right? So let this go on, whereas what we'll do here is let's play with this. So in Linux, what is the utility, right? There are different ways to set up firewalls in Linux. You can probably have some third-party firewalls as well set up, but I'm going to use a utility which basically comes by default in most of the Linux distros, which is basically your iptables, right? So what do you see, or how do you see the current list of iptable rules? You just do iptables -l, right? And that's going to give you the default set of rules, right? And this is what your machine comes with, right, when you install it. So it basically, you can see it is accepting basically the it's basically accepting the connections in the inbound direction as well as all the connections in the outbound direction as well. So this is literally the default set of rules which your machine comes with. Okay, so now how do we do this? So let's say you see here we have our ping working, right, to our Kali machine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable that. I'm going to disable all the connections in the inbound direction. How do we do that, right? If you want to see the utility, if you want to see all the options, you can do man, and you can see the various options. You can see there are a bunch of options which you can use here, right? So in my case, this is a very simple way to look at the whole application or the whole utility, right? This is something which you can use, the man command. Anyway, so these are a lot of options which you can play with. You can even set a NAT and so on. But in my case, what I'm going to do is, let's quit and let's clear the screen. So what is my let's go back to iptables. Yeah, what is my aim here? I want to drop all the packets in the inbound direction, right? So how do we do that? So we do iptables, okay, and what is the what do we want to do? We want to create a policy, right? Basically the existing policy which is input, and we want to edit it. What do we want to do? We don't want to accept, we want to drop. There you go. So I've dropped it. Now if I probably quit from here and let's try to send your ping. There you go. The ping is no longer working. The reason is my Linux is basically dropping all the ICMP related packets, right? Cool. The other thing is, let's also try SSH, right? So right now, let me go to my host machine and I can basically try this. Let's try SSH into my which machine? My Kali machine, right? So I think it's basically bits please is my username and 192.168.0.117, right? There you go. The SSH is also not going through. The reason is because we are dropping all the packets in the inbound direction. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow SSH. So this will be a little complicated rule, right? So for that, first let's get the interface name. So I'm going to do ifconfig and the interface name is nothing but Ethernet 0, right? So how do we write the rule? So you start again with iptables, right? Iptables, and you're going to append to the existing rule, which is or existing chain, they call it basically rule chain, right, which is input. So you saw, right, we have 3 chains. So we have input, forward and output. So we are basically appending to the input because we are basically changing the rules on the inbound direction. And next, see, it's already giving me okay, this is basically a rule which I wrote before, so it's already Kali is giving me the whole thing, but let me write it once again, right? So which interface do you want to attach this rule to, which is Ethernet 0? So that's -i, and next would be the port, the protocol, right, which is basically your TCP, because you know SSH works on port 22, right? TCP, it's a TCP protocol. That's done. And then where do you want the connections to come from? What is the source, right? The source IP addresses. I basically want to allow SSH from everywhere, so I can basically put a wildcard of this sort, right? So this will basically allow SSH connections from everywhere. And to which port, right? So D port, basically my destination port is 22, right? Because I want to allow SSH, and SSH runs on or listens on the port 22. And what is the final verdict? Do you want to accept this or drop this? I'm gonna say obviously accept. So I'm gonna accept this. Sorry, yeah, there you go. Did I write something wrong? Okay, so I think I missed a dash here. Okay, so that's D port. Okay, so there you go. So the rule got added, right? How do we check if the rule got added? We can check iptables -l. Okay, there you go. See, we have the rule added here. It's basically telling from anywhere, right, you can also, I mean, to anywhere, which is basically my machine, right? We are basically allowing the port SSH, or we are basically allowing the protocol SSH TCP port 22. Cool. So now let's go back here and let's try to SSH, right? And there you go, right? Now I'm able to SSH. So I can SSH, and there you go. I'm basically dropped here, right? I can show you PWD probably, right? Or maybe OO, right? So there you go. So that was pretty simple, isn't it? We were able to kind of like create iptable rules to block the ICMP is still not working, right? See, the ICMP is still not working. It's timing out, right? Because if you see the rule, what we have done is we have put a rule by default, it will drop everything, right? And we have also explicitly put a rule telling that for SSH, please allow it. Got it? So that's how you can write rules over here, right? All right, so now the final variant of this particular video is on the cloud, right? AWS. Again, like I said, this video is probably going to be super basic for folks who already know about this, so you can skip this part or skip the whole video, you know, if you are very well versed with this. But on the cloud, I want to show this for folks who don't have much experience with the cloud. Where does whatever we did just now, how does it translate to cloud, right? How do you define it? So let's do that. So let's go and launch a new instance, right, on cloud. So I'm going to launch a new instance, a basic Linux AMI, right? So this is my obviously cloud console, right? So I'm going to use a T2 micro machine, right? Let's keep everything default. Let's add some storage and let's add some tags, right? I'm going to say name, I don't know, maybe this is going to be a Linux machine, right? So I'm going to add that, okay? So, or maybe Linux 2021, I don't know if there are other machines over there. So I'm going to say configure security group, right? And let's probably, what I'm going to do here is let's create a new one. Create a new one. I'm going to call this firewall, right? And just to show you, I'm going to delete this existing rule, right? I'm just going to create a security group. So literally in AWS, the firewall rules translate to security groups, right? And you can see at first I'm basically not putting any rule. I'm going to drop all the traffic, right? So there's nothing, there's no inbound or outbound rules at all. And let's review this and let's launch it. So I'm going to use the existing key pair, launch, right? Let's wait for a couple of seconds for that to come up. You click on view instances. You can see the machine is coming up. And looks like it has come up. So what I'm going to do is, so this is our machine which we just now created, right? Think of this as a normal VM, right? You spun up just like how you spin up a VM in your local VMware workstation or VMware Fusion. Very similarly, you can spin up VMs on cloud. So this is basically one which we have spin up now, and what we are going to do is, this is the IP address to connect to it, right? And how do you connect to it? So let's exit out of this guy, right? Let's clear the screen. So how do you normally connect? You SSH into it, and I have my key, my my AWS key, right? And you will basically need to put the username. So it's always easy to user because it's an AWS machine, and the IP address as well. There you go, right? But you can see it's not working. The reason is because as of now we don't have any. We don't have what? Where is my machine? Okay, so let's just put it here. Yeah. So as of now, you see here in the security group section, you can see you have a firewall over here, but right now you really don't have any inbound role or any outbound role. It's empty, right? So let's click on the security group, which is the firewall group, and you can see under the inbound section there is nothing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this. I'm going to enable SSH because we want SSH traffic, right? And we are going to enable SSH from you can explicitly put your IP. I'm going to enable it from anywhere. And there you go, gonna save it, right? So there you go, I've enabled SSH now, and basically it has actually enabled SSH for IPv4 and IPv6 as well. Cool. So now what I'm gonna do is, let's stop this and let's try this again. There you go, right? Now the SSH is working. So I can basically log in, and there you go, it has already put me in, it just put me in my VM. This is literally my VM, right? You can see here, right? So that was pretty simple. I mean, whatever I showed you is basically enabling just SSH, but you can use the same security groups to allow access to some other protocols, maybe I don't know, maybe FTP, TFTP, or HTTP and stuff like that, right? So it's as simple. You just need to go and edit your inbound roles, right? And you need to basically take care of your firewall rules inside security groups in case of your cloud, right? So hope that was useful. It was like I said, something very basic, probably for people who are just getting started. So I just wanted to show you a variant of how to do the same thing on all the three platforms, I could say, right? So hope that was useful, and have a good one. Bye guys.